So this is a complete lesson for the listening section of the IELTS exam. In this lesson, you learn all the theory that is necessary for you to get a high score on the IELTS. Besides learning theory, you're also going to learn some expert tips, and additionally, you and me will be solving some IELTS listening exercises. Just remember, we're offering a free ebook for the IELTS with 101 high quality IELTS questions. Just go to the description below, follow instructions to get your free ebook. Now we're going to start with the structure for the IELTS listening section. On the previous video, the first video for our complete course, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. We've talked a little bit about the IELTS listening section, and we've mentioned that this section is a little bit tricky, especially because of the rules they have in order for us to type in or write an answer. But before we get there, we have to understand the structure. So this is the structure. So here we have the structure of the IELTS listening section. Overall duration, 30 minutes in total. Now you have to know something though, that if you're taking the exam on paper, then you're gonna get 10 extra minutes to transfer your answers from the sheet of paper in which you wrote it to the answer sheet, okay? But only if you're taking the paper version exam. Now if you're taking the computer exam, you won't get those extra 10 minutes. And then you have some time left, 2 minutes of review time. Okay, just remember something. Here you have to answer as you listen. So basically by the time they have finished playing the audios, then you should have also finished writing your answers down. And then you're gonna get some few seconds in order for you to check them up, to kind of proofread them, and that's it. Okay? Now for a number of questions, you have 40 questions in total for the 4 parts that there's gonna be here on the IELTS listening section. Now, let's talk a little bit about the parts. There will be 4 parts. The first one is a casual conversation. Okay, in this casual conversation, you have 2 people talking. Usually one person will be requesting information about a service. As far as the number of speakers, it's always going to be 2. Number of questions, you get 10 questions for this part. And the duration is anywhere between 4 and 5 minutes. This one is a casual conversation, so basically the language they're going to use is very commonplace, everyday English, casual, okay, nothing too academic. The second one is a casual monologue, so this one is not a conversation but a monologue, but it's still casual. A speaker will be talking about a casual context. Number of speakers, there's going to be 1 because that's a monologue. Number of questions, 10, and the duration anywhere between 4 and 5 minutes. Now, in regards to part 3, we have the academic conversation. Now, notice this one is the first academic audio, academic listening passage you are going to listen to. A group of people will be talking about a university project. Number of speakers is anywhere between 2 and 4 people. Number of questions is 10. The duration will be anywhere between 4 and 5 minutes. And then at the end, the last part will be an academic lecture. Okay, a professor will be giving a lecture, or basically a fragment of a lecture. Number of speakers, there will be 1, only the professor. Sometimes you can have some participation from students, but it will be minor. Number of questions, you have 10, and the duration anywhere between 4 to 5 minutes. Perfect, so these are going to be the main question types you're going to see on the IELTS listening section. Now, let's talk a little bit about the question types. Here we have some of the most important question types you'll find here on the IELTS listening section. The first and most common question type is multiple choice. So basically they give you options to choose. Then you have the famous form completion. You will see this type of question basically most of the time on the first part of the whole section. So for the first part, most likely you will get this table that you will have to complete. Then you also have the sentence or summary completion. Basically, these are the types of questions in which you will have to type in an answer. And then less frequently, but also important, you have the diagram labeling. You will have this kind of maps, very common in all the British consuls books, right? And prep programs. And what you will have to do is orient yourself inside the map. You will have to be able to find your way. Sometimes you're going to need to match the numbers with the letters. Some other times you're going to need to type in an answer. Alright, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the characteristics, the main characteristics for this section of the IELTS. Let's start with the first one. The audio will not stop. Well, that's very typical for most exams of English, right? They won't give you an option to pause the audio. You just have to listen to the whole thing uninterrupted. Feature number 2, you must answer as you go. And this is one of the main differences with the TOEFL. Here you're going to have to be giving your answers just as the audio is playing. Okay, now to be totally honest, for some people this is great. This is easy, it makes exam easier. For other people this is just difficult. But we're going to talk more about that in a second. The third feature is that you should not take notes, okay? And this is tied to the previous point. Of course, on the IELTS, you're going to give your answer immediately. You just hear the word and you're going to write your answer. So you don't have to be taking notes. You don't have to memorize or remember anything. And that, as I've mentioned before, for some people that's going to be helpful because they are bad at taking notes. So that's why they like the IELTS listening section. But for some other people, this might be a little bit more difficult because you're going to have to multitask. You're going to have to be listening to the audio and writing down your information at the same time while also reading and understanding the question. Okay, so this may overload some people. And the fourth feature for the exam is that the accent is unnatural and almost exclusively British. And that's right, of course, we know that the IELTS is directed especially at a market for people who want to go to the UK or other Commonwealth nations or Europe maybe. So the accent will be unnatural. So it means that the speakers on the IELTS are gonna speak in a little bit more slowly than a normal person would. And also it's normally British, of course, as we've mentioned before, so just make sure you get the right practice material. So now one of the most important parts of the whole lesson, we're gonna go over the theory for this section. Perfect, so now we're gonna see the theory for the listening section of the IELTS exam. Now the first thing we have to keep in mind is we need to maximize the time that we have to read the questions, okay? So at the beginning of each of the sections, you'll hear the narrator saying something like this.
You'll hear an interview conversation between a banker and a customer. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 7.
Okay, as soon as he starts talking, what you have to do is you have to start reading the first couple questions, okay? This is very important for you to get a feeling of all the questions. Of course, you need to read the answer choices also for you to already know what they are going to talk about. And in that way, you're going to start with the right foot. Second point would be understand the different types of questions, all right? We've already mentioned that there are different types of questions on this section. For example, when you have a multiple choice, you have to be very careful. You always need to read the instructions very, very carefully, okay? So for example, in this case, they say choose the correct letters, A, B, or C. Meaning that they only want one answer. So you have to choose only one, pick only one, okay? There could be other questions that ask you for more than one answer. So usually it's going to be only one, but you always need to read instructions because they may change. And of course we know, because we've mentioned this before, that in order to type in answers, there are tons and tons of rules that we're going to see later on. So the third point of the theory is that you need to learn how to identify keywords and synonyms. Okay, keywords and synonyms. These keywords usually are going to come as connectors and synonyms also, okay? For example, let's listen to this part of the audio.
That was my first thought, because I thought it'd give me some practical examples. But when I searched for men's clothing on the internet, there were hardly any articles.
Okay, so we need to pay close attention to the inflections of the voice of the speaker, okay? And also to the pace, because the things that are more important, more relevant, will be mentioned a little bit more slowly than those that are just less important. So the speakers usually will speak fast those words that are not relevant and will emphasize more the words that are important, and also the connectors. So if we listen to something like this, in our mind, we need to have something like this. So the important parts are highlighted here in blue, and the connectors, which are even more important, are highlighted in red. So I remember how this speaker went about it. It said, my first thought, because blah, blah, blah. But when I search for men's clothing, so that's an important inflection because he's giving a problem. He's giving a contrast, okay? And at the end, he goes something like, there were hardly any articles. Hardly, so he takes his time to say the word hardly any, because that's important for us to understand why there is a contrast, why there is something negative with what he initially thought about. So paying close attention to the inflections of the voice, to the connectors, will be extremely crucial for you to be good in this section. So in this case, if we have to answer something like this, why did the student decide not to do his paper on men's clothing? A, because he still needed to give it some thought. B, because there were too many practical examples. C, because of the scarcity of material on the internet. So here the keywords for the question will be why, and the student decide not to do paper, right? And of course here we know that that answer must be after the connector but, because but gives you a problem, right? And the problem was that when he searched, he found hardly any articles. So basically the answer would be C, because the scarcity of material is the same thing as saying hardly any articles. And the fourth point of the theory is the most important by far, and also what makes the IELTS special, different from all other exams, or from most other exams, I should say. You need to understand all the rules for typing in your answers, okay? And we're going to take some time here to go and understand that. So here you have the rules for typing answers. There are several, and you need to make sure you totally understand them. The first rule would be this: read instructions for the number of words carefully, okay? So let's see, here we have exercise 7 to 10. Write 2 words and or a number. This is something we have to take as a limit, okay? So basically they're saying the limit for you to write, the number of words you need to write in the text box is either 2 words and or a number. So we can write 1 word and that's going to be okay. We can write 2 words also, that's fine because that's under the limit. We can also write a combination of 1 word and a number, or 2 words and a number, or just a number, okay? But those are all the possible combinations that are acceptable. If we write anything else, like for example, we write 3 words, or we write 2 words and 2 numbers, or 1 word and 2 numbers, those are not acceptable combinations. We won't receive credit, okay? So it's very important the first thing you do when you have one of these text boxes would be to read the limit for the number of words. Second, grammar and spelling must be correct. Okay, we know the grammar and spelling need to be correct. Now here, what does correct spelling mean? You can use both the American English system or the British English system. We already know that there are differences in the spelling, right? For some few words, for example, the word center, Americans would spell it C-E-N-T-E-R. The Brits would spell it C-E-N-T-R-E. Both of them are fine, but of course, you need to keep consistent. So basically, if you start spelling the American way, then you need to keep on doing the same for the whole section. You just can't be shifting from American to British spelling systems. That's something very important. You need to keep that in mind. Correct capitalization. You need to capitalize proper names or the beginning of each of the sentences, right? For example, remember that months of the year like September, countries like the United States, or people like Joe, right? Names, those need to be capitalized. And then number 3, you need to use the correct grammar. So the final sentence after you have written in your answer needs to make total sense. Okay, for example, here they say they asked the guy would be our answer, to give them information. That's fine. Now what happens here? Here we need the article the, right? If we don't have the word the, let's say we just write guide, that would be incorrect. If we don't have that, it would be they asked guide to give them information. That would be wrong. So in the way the sentence is structured, it is forcing us to write the article. We need that article. That's why we must pay close attention to the final sentence, the final product. Third rule for typing your answers, the answers must not be redundant, okay? So we have to pay very close attention, especially to symbols. For example, the first example says, the room has a cost of, and they already give us that symbol of dollars, right? And then they say per night. So the answer here needs to be 90, okay? If we write, as in the second example, right, in the second line, we write $90, that would be wrong because that's redundant. We already have that symbol for dollars, so we don't need to repeat. We should not repeat the word dollars. So be really careful with these symbols. Then also be careful with adjectives. Let's read the second example here. The turtles showcase a dynamic, blah, 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 during the summer. And here we wrote ranch, dynamic ranch. That makes sense because dynamic would be the adjective for the noun ranch. Okay. But then the other person, the next line, they wrote varied ranch. And that might be what they heard from the listening passage, from the audio. That's fine. But what's the problem though? That the way the sentence is already worded, they are already giving us an adjective dynamic. And dynamic is basically the same thing as varied. They're pretty similar. So if we write the word varied, even though it was part of the audio, that's redundant because we already have another word that is fulfilling the same purpose. So here we only need the word ranch. So be careful with this. Then, number 4, we need to use abbreviations carefully. Later on, when I give you some master tips and tricks, I will also be giving you an important list of abbreviations that are accepted by the IELTS. Okay, so just stay tuned. Rule number 5, be careful with hyphenated words. Okay, this one is a tricky situation. There are some words that need to be hyphenated, like for example this one, well prepared, post-war, pre-workout, bad-tempered, and fair-haired, okay? If you don't hyphenate them, let's say you just write well prepared without a hyphen, as if they were 2 words, that's going to be wrong, okay? All of these words you see here only count as 1 word, by the way. But if you're following a quality IELTS program like Liberties, for example, we will teach you the words that are hyphenated, okay? So once you memorize them, you will know which words need to be hyphenated. Actually, it's a kind of longish list, but it has a pattern, okay? But this one is an advanced thing. You need to be careful with this. And you need to make sure that whatever way you are preparing gets you ready for this. And then the last rule for typing your answers. Different versions of the same answer, okay? So there could be different versions of the same answer and all of them, and both of them are going to be correct. Let's read this. Let's say this is a transcript from the audio. It says, the room that I am about to rent is the best one in the whole area. I really love it because it is cool and comfortable during the intense summer nights. I like it because it is so fresh. Okay. And then the question says, or the sentence says, the room is blank and comfortable, so it is the best in the area. Okay. Here we have 2 possible answers. We can write the word cool or the word fresh. Not only because they are synonyms, but because both of them have been mentioned in the audio, okay, as part of the same thing. So the person has mentioned that it's cool, and also at the end they say, I like it because it is so fresh. So it is fresh. So no matter what we write, both of them are going to be correct. Perfect. So now we have all the essentials to start answering questions. So you have already subscribed to the channel. You have already gave us thumbs up if you like the video, of course. And you've also followed the instructions in order to get your free ebook with 101 IELTS questions. And you have more than necessary in order to start your preparation. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start answering IELTS listening exercises, both you and me at the same time. So just get ready. Perfect. So now we're going to start the practice for the listening section. Okay, in this case, we're going to practice the complete first part. Okay, to practice the other parts, of course, you have your free ebook with 101 exercises. You should have already downloaded it. So what you have here is the content for the first part. So here you have the first 10 questions. You first get 20 seconds to look at them before the audio starts playing. Let's go. Okay, so now we'll listen to the audio. And you will have to write your answers on a piece of paper as the audio is playing.
Hello, Financial Aid Office. How can I help you?
Well, I want to submit my information to receive the scholarship. Can I do that on the phone?
Absolutely. Can I have your name, please?
Alexander Polianenko.
Okay. And how long you've been attending Langley Business School?
I'm in my 3rd year. So I am actually a junior, but I recently transferred to Langley last semester, so I've actually just been here for 1 semester.
That's all right. What is the best way we can get in touch with you, by mail or by phone?
But could it be by text message?
We do not currently offer that option.
Okay, that's not a problem. I'm not really into checking my mail too often, so I guess that by phone.
Can I have your phone number, please?
62822589714.
All right. And what major are you?
I'm studying economics. I've recently changed my major from finance.
Perfect. And is it a BA or a BS?
I'm sorry, what is that?
The BA is a Bachelor in Arts, while a BS is a Bachelor in Science.
Okay, and where can I look that up?
Well, the information should appear in the bottom right corner of your student ID.
Okay, here I see it. It says BA.
Okay, so now I am going to ask you some important information regarding your family and their income.
Okay,
Who do you live with?
I live with my mom and my stepfather. My parents got divorced 4 years ago.
And do you currently work?
During the summer I worked at a blinds factory. But not anymore.
What was your total income last year?
That was £3,000.
Perfect. And is your mom or your stepfather employed?
Yes, both are employed.
What does your mother do and where does she work?
She's a dentist. She works at Lancashire Dental Clinic.
Could you please spell that for me?
LANCASHIRE.
Thanks. And what was your mom's gross income last year?
It was £120,000. No, sorry, that's the net income. It was actually £150,000.
And what does your stepfather do?
He's the CEO of the Royal Bank.
Of a branch of the Royal Bank?
No, actually he's the CEO of the Royal Bank Corporation.
Okay. And what was his income last year?
It was, let me see, a little over £2 million.
Okay. That's all the information we need. We'll let you know if your application has been approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now that the audio is over, you have 30 seconds to check your answers. Just check them out for spelling, for grammar, etc. Perfect, so now we're basically done with this exercise. Now we're gonna see the answers. How did it go? Did you like it or not? Leave a comment below. Perfect, so now we have the answers. The answers are on the left. Those were the questions that you were asked. And the script for the whole conversation is on the right, okay? So the answer for the first question is one semester, the time that this person is attending Langley University. Okay, and the information is given here on the script. I'm in my 3rd year, so I'm actually a junior. So that's given to you in order to get you confused. Okay, on the IELTS, they will give you different numbers along with your answers, so you get confused. But he says, I'm in my 3rd year. He doesn't say anything about semester. And then he says, but I recently transferred to Langley last semester. So I've actually just been here for 1 semester. So the answer is at the end. I've actually just been here for 1 semester. Okay, so it's important that you practice a lot because some people might think that the answer is 3 years. But in this case, we're talking about semesters, and also we're talking about semesters that this person, this man, is going to this particular university. Okay, so the answer for the second one would be phone. Okay, phone. He says, before that, 2 lines before that, he says, but could it be by text message? And the admissions office worker tells him that they don't have that option, right? Some people might get fooled and might think that text message is the option, but actually that option is not available. So we cannot have that as an option. And at the end he says, okay, that's not a problem. I'm not really into checking my mail too often. So I guess that by phone. So basically he's saying by phone is okay. So again, we have to listen carefully so we don't fall into traps. The third one, of course, is just a number, okay? Most likely in this first section, you are going to have numbers, and also you're going to have addresses or names of places, so you will have to know how to spell, okay? And this is one of the things you have to practice good. Numbers, how to take down numbers easily. So he goes and he says it in a normal pace, right? 628-2258-9714, okay? So that's the number. And if you have enough practice, it shouldn't be a problem. And the answer for number 4 is economics. Okay, he says, I'm studying economics. I've recently changed my major from finance. Again, they're giving you two majors, right, in order to get you confused. But he says right now he's studying economics, and the question asks about the current major, not about the previous major, right? And he says that before it used to be finance. But if we listen carefully, we know that right now, currently, he's studying economics. Okay, the answer for question number 5 would be BA. And at first, the man doesn't really know if he's a BA or a BS. The woman tells him where to find that information. And then he looks at his ID and he goes, okay, here I see it. It says BA. Okay, so BA would be the answer for number 5. And then number 6 has household members, right? A student lives with his mother and stepfather. Parents, blank, 4 years ago. So 4 years ago would be your key word. And he says, with my mom and my stepfather, my parents got divorced 4 years ago. So that's a keyword. What happened 4 years ago? Parents got divorced 4 years ago. So in that case, divorced. The answer for number 7 would be blinds. Blinds factory. Okay, he has a summer job at a blinds factory. During the summer, I worked at a blinds factory, but not anymore. So summer job, blinds factory. He only says it once though, so that could be a little bit confusing for people who don't have enough vocabulary, right? And they don't know what a blind is. Number 8, mother's work. The answer for number 8 is Lancashire. Lancashire. Okay, of course, at first when he says Lancashire, some people might write it without an A in the middle, right? So Lancashire, maybe. But then he spells it because the woman asks him to spell it for her. And he goes on with the spelling, right? So again, as I've said before, something you have to practice a lot would be writing down numbers, phone numbers, and the spelling of last names, the spelling of places, addresses, etc. Because they will definitely come here in the first part of the IELTS listening section. The answer for number 9 would be 150,000. Now, when you are giving your answer, as you're going to see later in the expert tips, you should always go with the number, not with that word, right? 15,000. I mean, you could, but if you want to play it safe at all times, just go with the number. And also, when you have numbers that are over 4 digits, 5 digits or more, then you must place a comma for the thousands. If you don't have the comma in there, then the answer would be wrong. Notice also, some people might have said 150,000 pounds, okay? That would have been wrong. Why? Because they already give us the sign, the symbol for pounds. So if you say 15,000 and then you write pounds, that would be redundant. So we don't want that. So if you look at the script where you find the answer, here again they're trying to get you confused. Why? Because he gives 2 values actually. He gives 2 numbers. Because at first he says it was 120,000 pounds. So you think it's 120. So maybe you write that down. But then he says, no, sorry, that's the net income. So he got confused. That information he gave was not good, was not accurate. And then he basically fixes what he said before and he says it was 150,000 pounds. So that's your final answer, 150. They're trying to get you confused. This will often happen, okay? Not only in part 1, also in part 2. So they will give first one answer and then they will correct that answer later on. And then number 10, the answer for the stepfather's work would be that he is the CEO at the Royal Bank. And he says that twice, so that's pretty easy, right? He says first he's the CEO of the Royal Bank, and the woman doesn't really believe him. She thinks she has misheard something, right? Because if he's related to the CEO of a big corporation, why is he asking for financial aid? So she thinks she has misheard him. So maybe he is the manager of a branch or something like that. But then the man says it again, right? He confirms he's the CEO of the Royal Bank Corporation. So CEO is the answer. Actually, that's a pretty simple answer. Okay, so this one has been the complete part 1 for the IELTS lesson section. Again, if you want to practice with the other parts, just download your free ebook, okay? You have to follow the descriptions though in order for you to get your ebook. Over 20,000 people have already gotten their ebooks and they have improved their IELTS score tremendously. So just follow the instructions in the description below and you'll get your ebook. So how was it? I hope you had a good time with those exercises. For some people, I know it's going to be a little tough, but for some others, it's going to be easy. The important thing is that now you have a good understanding of what it feels like to go and perform in this section of the IELTS exam. Now, I'm going to give you some pro tips for you to actually get a good score pretty easily. Now, the first tip is this. When we are asked to write questions in the text boxes, we've mentioned before that there are a lot of rules for us to follow if we want to get a full point, right? To receive credit for that answer. For example, you have to check spelling, you have to check grammar, and you also have to capitalize. For example, if you are writing a proper name and you don't capitalize, you don't use upper cases for the first letter, then that's going to be wrong. Okay, the same thing if you're writing and that word is the first word in the sentence, you also need to capitalize it. How do you make sure that you never run into this problem? Well, just do what my students do. Just make sure that you write everything in uppercase, okay? You're gonna thank me later, but just follow this. Write every single answer in uppercase. Now the second pro tip is this. We're talking also about text boxes and writing our answers or typing them in. So sometimes you're gonna need to write a number, right? And you have two options. You can write the number in words or you can write the number as a number. For example, the word 27, you can write it as 20 dash or hyphen 7, that's only one word. Or you also can write it with numbers, 2 and 7, right? Of course, here, I don't know why some people get it wrong. Just write the number, okay? If you have the option to write a number in words or to write a number as a number, write the number. It's just much easier and you don't have to get confused with the hyphens, etc. Because believe me, if you want to write just the number as words, sometimes because you have to use hyphens on the IELTS, it might get a little complicated. So just write the number. And pro advice number 3, here you have a list of abbreviations. Okay, these abbreviations are going to help you significantly. Why? Because the faster you can write them, of course, if you write, for example, kilometer, and then you can write km. Of course, km is much better because it allows you to write faster and to be able to follow the audio, the content of the audio faster also, so you don't get lost. So just make sure that you memorize these abbreviations and that's going to help you a lot. So this has been the complete lesson for the IELTS listening section. I know you've enjoyed it, so of course subscribe to the channel to keep on receiving more courses and more lessons like this one. And also make sure you click on the notification bell so we get you updated when we post a new video. Don't forget to download your free ebook with tons of practice material. My name is Rod, I'm with Liberty, and I'll be seeing you in the next lesson.